Well, good morning. Today is Wednesday and it's the 2nd of June. I can't believe we're into June. You know, despite lockdown and everything, it seems like the year so far has just flown by anyway. And sometimes it feels like not a lot to show for it. But it's Wednesday, which means tomorrow's Thursday, which means it's time for another template for the Angela Porter's colouring group. They've already had a colour palette challenge because it's Brett's birthday in just under a week, and so I made the colour palette challenge for this month, her favourite colours as the predominant colours. Just said pinks, mainly pinks and purples, teals and turquoises. That'll be lovely, thank you very much. So this is just purely drawing for fun. It is quite late here for me. It's 22:10 in the morning, which is quite late for me doing anything. It's going to take me a while to come around. If you've been following me for a while, you know that Wednesdays are my organic food delivery day, and I'm up stupid o'clock in the morning for that. And today I woke, I think I heard the chap come and my alarm went not long after. Excuse me, coffee. And I think the noise of him arriving jolted me out of sleep. My sleep patterns are seriously out of bonk at the moment, but they'll get back in. So that was about 5 o'clock this morning. So I got up, put everything away, got myself a drink, and eventually got back to sleep because I had trouble opening my eyes big time. I really wanted to remain asleep. So I knew if I tried to do anything, I was just too tired to even draw, really. So I thought I would do that. I've since had breakfast, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had some crumpets today. I've had crumpets for what seems like forever. But I popped into a local supermarket yesterday, one that's usually quiet. It was really quite busy, because I went out in the morning, didn't I? And I was going to go for a walk, but the sun was high and it was very warm, and sunlight and me, we can cope, but not with heat as well. And I don't do well in the heat. So, but I did get my steps in yesterday around and about the house and doing things. And I also got a number of templates sketched out for the next colouring book I'm working on. Still no clues for you, sorry. You can guess if you like, leave a comment in the box below. So was that, and then my day was taken up then with meetings and having to feed myself, and and I also got my new set of watercolour paints. I think I showed you in my last vlog right at the end some watercolour swatches I'd done, and I really wasn't happy with any of them. I may be wrong, perhaps I didn't show you those, but I'm slowly taking a Domestica course on botanical watercolour sketching. Not so much for the botanical sketching bit, but for the watercolour bit. Because I keep saying, I'm not going to bother, it's not for me, and I keep going, yeah, just one more go, perhaps this will work for me. And this chap, artist Lapin, uses watercolours and pencils and Sakura jelly rolls, as well as fine liners, to draw, sketch, colour plants, preferably plants themselves, not from photographs. I don't have green fingers, and my garden is a jungle, what little garden I have, There are several lost tribes of Feagles in there, I think. Terry Pratchett reference, the Nacmac Feagles. And I wouldn't mind having them there, to be honest with you. But and something needs to be done, but I've got to get people in to do it. And yeah, I'm still not letting people in my house. I don't care what the government says at the moment. But then I rarely have visitors before this, so all part and parcel of the social anxiety, I'm afraid. But I do need to. But it's deciding what to do. I've got some trees that have managed to grow there from goodness, well, birds dropping seeds, and they need to go, and something else does. So first find somebody who I can trust to do it. Because my experience with people who've done gardening for me, I've discovered is they charge me an awful lot of money and they don't do a very good job. I'm very, somebody knocks on my door and offers to do work for me, and I almost inevitably get ripped off because I found it hard to say no. So I need somebody, a recommendation from a friend or someone else close to me, to say this person does really good work. They're very reasonably priced. They won't overcharge you, and they do very, very good work. So we'll see. This is a very typically Angela kind of drawing, I think. It's definitely shades of Entangled in the old way. Lots of swirls and spirals and patterns that fill the ribbons up. I suppose these are ribbons rather than arches or borders. I like the idea that they're ribbons with texture, pattern in them. Just fill them in. That's about all, really. Life just potters along as nothing's really provoked my thoughts, my noggin, things that I've got anything to say on, other than it's really lovely to just be drawing this morning. I doubt I'll do any more work on the templates. I think I got 5 done yesterday, I could be wrong. Not finished, but sketches, because they're off with the editor for approval, so to check I'm on the right route for them, I'm just having a look to see how many I did do. I know the first one, the cover, is done. Yeah, I actually got, well, I didn't get 5 done yesterday, I got 3 done. I did 2 the day before. And so I like to check in and check, is this what we had in mind? And then to look for advice they may have or suggestions that I can build into things going forward. So I try not to do, I won't do any more now until I get that back, simply in case I have to chuck things out and start all over. I've got plenty of ideas, I've written them all down, and but before I really commit to them, I just want to make sure that these ideas are particularly okay and they're not too samey, because the theme is quite specific, so that it is going to have that kind of sameness about it, but be fine. Today I'm drawing with a pen that's broader than I would normally. my digital artwork, I have been noticing that even though I may use black outlines, when I add colour they almost seem to disappear. And so they're still there, they're still the skeleton of the pattern, but they're not so noticeable. The colours take over, I think. I may be wrong, but that's how it appears to me. It may appear different to other people. And that, I think, is one of the fascinating things about art, is we all can look at something and we notice something different about a painting, a drawing, a collage, whatever it may be, mixed media. We'll all be drawn to different things and notice different things. And of course, some things appeal to our sensibilities, others don't. And even when they don't, we can recognise the skill, the artistry, the creativity of the person who created it. It may not be my particular style, but I can still appreciate it. And although I'm not a big art critic, I can go and I can enjoy things, and sometimes, I say sometimes, as I've aged, should we say matured, as a person, not sure about the artist bit, but I've discovered that things that I perhaps didn't like previously, I find I do. So I don't know why. Perhaps it is just that maturation and the process of us changing as we age, because we do. There's no two ways about it. The tastes change. Since I was ill, December 2019, I've acquired a taste for coffee, which I've not had for many, many, many long years. I really went off coffee, yeah. And yet I seem to be drinking an awful lot of it. It's quite weak, admittedly, and it's very mild. But I've found I've enjoyed it. And I think it's because my taste altered after that illness for quite a while. And things that I'd normally enjoyed, like tea, just tasted wrong. Whereas coffee, because it always tasted wrong, actually tasted a bit better. So, it's always a bit of a surprise. Doesn't mean I don't drink tea, because boy, do I love my tea. But there are times when I just really, really, especially in the morning, it seems, I enjoy that coffee. I don't know why. Having said that, some mornings it's tea all the way, darling. And I thoroughly enjoy it. So I think it just depends on whatever. But this morning is a coffee morning. And it can't be because I need caffeine, because I drink it so weak, mild. There's not much in the way of caffeine in there. So that can't be it. These are looking like a bit like strange bubbles. Some of these. So how did I get onto that? I don't know. I'm wittering. Oh yeah, tastes in art. So I think, tastes do change. Trying to think of another example of where my tastes change. I think my choice of colour in clothing has changed as well, because I've always been quite drifty, floaty, bohemian-y, aging hippie chick. I was born in the 60s, in the early 60s, so I do remember the hippie era, because my older sister is that much older than me. She's 10 years older than me, and was very much a hippie chick. And so I think that was a big influence. I can remember, the Beatles albums that she had, and those amazing covers by Peter Max and in that style. I think they really have been an influence, even though it may not be a conscious one, on my choice of those bright colours and colours that will jangle against each other in a most delightful way. And the complementary colours that almost vibrate against each other. Although I'm tending towards more vintage colours these days, for whatever reason, and I have no idea what that reason may be. It just is. It just is. Tastes change, or perhaps it's just that variety, or the style of drawing I've been doing. I mean, this one is going to be crazy whacked out, totally abstract, with swirls and sort of like circles and ovals and lines and borders and things. So it is really going to those lovely bright colours will look fantastic in this, and with the dark lines it'll end up looking almost like stained glass, I would think, and that is always a lot of fun. Kind of vibe to get, I think. Back in medieval times, when stained glass was first developed. Now, this is something I think I'll remember, though I may remember it wrong. So if I do, please shout at me. Or please don't shout at me, I should say. Oh dear. Helicopter flying over. That they only had the technology for a small number of colours of glass. So they used to make the sort of like stained glass, you know, the bits for the stained glass, the panes, and then the designs used to be painted on and then fired on the glass to make them set, because they didn't have that technology to make all these beautiful bright coloured and vari-coloured glasses we have now. And of course, over time, those pigments have faded with use. And but it's the artistry is absolutely amazing in them. But I do have a particular love for the really bright stained glass, especially when you can bathe in a pool of colour. You know, in a building where the sun's on exactly the right side of the building to shine in, and it's lovely. I know. Sometimes I have childlike wonder of this world, sometimes all the time. And things like that still, even talking about it, I've got a big grin on my face. And I'll get the chance to bathe in that kind of light again, hopefully one day soon. We'll see. I suspect that for much of this month I'm going to have my nose down, working on the book to get that done. I'm bound to have odd days off, like Wednesdays are going to be my days off because of that early morning get up for the Able and Cold chap. Well, not for him specifically, but for my delivery. So it had been long enough today that there was an Antoinette. So arts and art styles that appeal, change, or find different things appealing, or the breadth of what appeals, I think, is more important, because I think the artists I've always loved. So one of the first artists I fell in love with was, again, thanks to the influence of my older sister, who I think she gifted me some postcards, or, you know, I had a birthday card or something like that, of Escher's work. MC Escher was a mathematician, but he did these most amazing lithographs with such detail, and buildings look real, but there was some work he did which was really beautiful, and, you know, sketches and drawings of real scenes. But it's the more surrealistic ones with the impossible staircases and balconies and worlds and the geometry involved and so on. And the tessellations were one thing morphed into another. And I've always found that fascinating, and no matter what books I dispose of, his complete works will always remain with me. Because sometimes I do have a clear out of books, because I do tend to get clogged up here. My Kindle is fantastic, but some books you just can't get on Kindle. But I think at the moment all the books I've got in print are ones that I will be hanging on to no matter how much of a declutter I have, because they please me. And things like, Peter Max was there. And then the prog rock album covers. In particular, I loved the work of Rodney Matthews and, I can never remember the name of the other chap, Roger Dean. And those were always lovely. And of course, like just about everybody else in the world, I think, the Impressionists, particularly Monet, because I like that out of focusness of his work, and how it focuses on colour and light rather than the pure form. It's an impression, hence the name Impressionist, but it brings out all that wonder and the things I notice, I think. Though you can tell what it is, but it's lovely. And apparently it comes about because he had really shocking eyesight. That's the latest theory I think I've read somewhere. And in the museum in Cardiff, there is a Monet in the art gallery, and it is absolutely beautiful. And photographs don't do it, or any of the others, I'm sure, any justice, because they don't capture the way light plays on the colours and how so much more alive they are. They also have not a Klimt there, but they've got somebody who worked in the style of Klimt, this huge painting. And that I always loved. When, as a child, we went on Sunday afternoon visits to the museum, the whole family, and pretty much could wander on your own. I was one of the oldest, so nobody worried where I was, because they knew I'd find my way back eventually. And apart from the Earth Science galleries of fossils and minerals, which I still love now, I'd often wander up to, and they had an industrial section. I remember that they had machines there that worked. I don't know what's happened to that. But I'd wander off to the art galleries and have a look. And that one was always one that I loved because of the gold on it and some of the jewel colours against the softer muted colours of the backgrounds and fabrics and so on. The old masters that they have there, yeah, I like them. I appreciate the skill, but they're mostly portraits or landscapes, which don't really do anything for me in many ways. I don't know why, they just don't. It's just personal preference. They also have a Turner. Now, which Turner? The one that's more impressionistic. And I think it's a picture of ships on the Thames. Can't remember the name of it, but the colours in it. And again, it's like looking in early morning autumn fog and just making out shapes and the colours that you would get. And I never used to like that when I was younger, but I now have an appreciation of it that I smile every time I visit there. And yeah, I like that. I can't remember the others that I particularly like there. These are the ones that top off my head. The last time I was there wasn't long before lockdown. And they had an exhibition of photographs of old mines and mine working and things like that, things that are no longer black and white images, and that high contrast, but the shapes that were in these photographs of these these places, it was those patterns that really interested me, and shapes and patterns, as you can tell, are what I particularly enjoy in art, I think. So that was really lovely to have a look at, and so on. And of course, then Dippy the Diplodocus. Dippy was visiting from the National History Museum in London, so I had to go and pay a visit before he went to his next stop on his nationwide journey. And I can remember it was a school day for kids in the area. Obviously, they'd gone back to school after the Christmas holidays, and so there were lots of very small, very shrieky children, which is great. Don't get me wrong, they're children, it's what they do. But I was getting really startled by all of these sudden noises, because that's what shrieks do to me. It's not their fault, it's a response in me, a trauma response, a trigger. And so I had earphones in with quite loud music for me. I wouldn't normally have such loud music, but this day I did. And my friend Liz had been in touch and wanted to go out for lunch. So I told her where I was, and she went, "Oh, I'd come with you." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted to." But I went and picked her up, and we went off for lunch then, which was lovely. But that's when we both worked out that we'd both been really ill over the Christmas period, and swap conditions and so on. And COVID wasn't about then, but soon afterwards, it must have been, because we're convinced we had it. And I've told this story before. I think there's a lot more to be found out about everything. I think there's a lot of people having put their heads in the sand, hoping it would just go away. And sadly, it hasn't. So, well, it didn't. But there we are. So I had a lovely time there. And yet there's so many other places I see things, because I do have a bit of a love of fantasy art as well, and all's well and good in this world, but it's lovely to see the imagination of other worlds that could be as well. And of course, my love of illuminated manuscripts will never go. Neither will Altene culture art, Iron Age art, prehistoric pottery, the patterns there, Anglo-Saxon stuff, architecture, nature. Nature's the most wonderful artist. And plants have always long been an interest to me. I love animals, don't get me wrong, but for some reason it's plants and rocks and fossils and things like that that really, really capture my attention, and the things that I would like to be able to draw, or perhaps I do draw in my own way. But that it's something that the architecture of places will be something that will coax me out and about to visit places, and hopefully in the not too distant future I will find that confidence, I think, to be able to visit some gardens and nature reserves with my sketchbook, and perhaps even watercolour paints to draw and paint whilst looking at them. And take a photo for reference as well, of course, because they're really useful for that. But National Botanic Gardens of Wales is lovely. They've got this huge greenhouse there, and it's full of subtropical, I think it is, plants from around the world, and they are sectioned off, and they have windows that will open in the roof to keep it at this temperature. So it's not tropical, it's not meant to be hot and humid and a tropical rainforest. It's subtropical, so it's almost like Mediterranean, so fairly dry, but it's so lovely, and the plants in there are so beautiful. They've got Proteus from, that's Australia, isn't it, or is it South Africa, and so many others that aren't native to the UK. Although they may be grown by people in greenhouses or indoors if they can get the conditions right. But it's a lovely place to go and to look. And the last time I was there, I did spend some time sketching shapes of flowers and plants and things, and taking photographs with my phone because I didn't have a camera at the time. I do now. And it was the day where I met the owls and watched them fly, which was lovely, special day. So I love there. Aberglasney, which is a garden. It's out not far, as far west as National Botanic Gardens at Llanarthy, but it's lovely, and they've got an orchid house, an old-fashioned orchid house there. Very formal gardens, but it's nice, and the cafe is really nice there. But you know, the formal gardens are lovely. They do have obviously flowers and plants there, and they have a yew tree tunnel, which is fascinating, and you can walk through it. You have to bend over, but it's really old, because yew trees live for hundreds of years, some perhaps even longer than that. So that's really nice to go to. I also enjoy going to the RSPB Reserve in Newport in the wetlands. RSPB is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. It's a charity, and they have lots of these wildlife reserves around the country you can visit. And this one is quite close to the sea. You can walk. There are walks that take you down to a lighthouse, and you overlook Gold Cliff Beach, I think it is. Is it Nash Beach? I'm not entirely sure, but the birds are amazing. Waterfowl, as well as hedges full of little songbirds, and cafe is really nicely done, because there is a pond outside one huge sort of like wall, which is just windows, and you can watch the waterfowl there, especially when they got their babies. It's so funny. But they have squirrels and squirrel feeders and bird feeders, so it's really lovely to just spend some time there, have a cup of tea and a cake, or lunch, and just watch the wildlife. And I'd often sit and draw there as well, but obviously through the pandemic it's not been open, and I think they're limiting the number of people who can go in even now. So it's something I'd like to visit. Going out into nature by myself isn't an option at the moment, really, because I get so easily spooked by people, and I always did anyway in nature. So for the foreseeable future, I won't be visiting any woods to draw by myself, for example. But then there's also the place I go to for my daily walk, or mostly daily walk, sometimes daily walk. I go out for a walk to the local cemetery, as I do feel safe there. The dead do not scare me, it is the living that do, that's for sure. And but that has lots of wildlife, but I'm also very conscious there that I'm not entirely sure whether it's the right thing to stop and draw. There's nowhere really to, well, there are places to sit, but not near where the lovely flowers are. And I think it's a bit off if you sit on the edge of a grave, perhaps. But then sometimes there's been a motif on a gravestone or headstone or monument has caught my eye. Funerary furniture, as I call it. I'm not sure if that's what it's known as, but funerary furniture. And I've wanted to take a photograph of it, and sometimes I've had a notebook, a little sketchbook with me. I've been able to draw that. Because the photographs, it's the light and shadow, it never seems to come out quite right. But if I sketch quickly, then I can make a bit more sense of the photograph if it's not very good. And with me, often photographs aren't very good because I am not a photographer. I take photographs for reference of shapes and patterns rather than true colours and things like that. And very quick memories of where I've been or what I've seen. That's me. So but I do need, I will find some other places. I mean, the local park in the town where I live is fantastic, but it is very busy with people as well. And it's quite a formal setting as well. So though they do have drifts of wildflowers and other flowers there, they don't have greenhouses or anything like that where they've got specialised kinds of flowers. Though Roath Park in Cardiff does have greenhouses, but I'm sure at the moment they're not open to the public. But that's where I've seen Birds of Paradise flowers, which are beautiful. Pink, purple and blue, and those bright orange beaks and those lovely dark rich green leaves. And they do look like birds' heads sticking up with long narrow necks. They're very, very ostentatious. Ostentatious, almost opulence, I suppose, in their nature. And they have ducks in there. Do they have ducks? Not sure if they have ducks in there, but they certainly have carp. Big carp, friendly carp. Used to be able to buy pellets to feed them with, and they'd hear the sound. I'm sure they must have heard the sound or felt the vibrations of you putting the money in the machine and the stuff dropping out, and they'd be clamouring by you. And they were so tame you could feed them literally by hand. And it was really rather lovely. Well, I thought so. I haven't been there for years and years, but it's the edge of the city, and it's a very popular place to go. There's a big boating lake there. There's kiddies' playground. There's a cafe. You can hire boats, pedalos, so you can pedal on the lake. Well, this is what I know of from when I was there last, which is a long time ago. And obviously you've got quite formal gardens. The rose garden is lovely, from what I remember. But it's really quite a large park. But again, it's very peoply, and I don't do well around people, so not on my own anyway. Much better if I've got company. But even then, it can take its toll on me. So I'm looking forward to working on this course. Like I am all the others, I've got quite a few on the go. It's just which one I feel like doing at any particular time. And with me, sometimes it does take time for any lessons I may have learnt to sink in, because I can be it can take quite a while, and then I go back and I think, oh, there we go, I've learnt that. How fabulous. And pennies click into place without me realising it, I think, is the thing. And that's always a source of almost great wonder to me. Cheeky little triangles, because I like triangles. They contrast nicely with the loops and swirls and everything else, don't they? So yeah, it's all something else for me to look forward to doing, and things that will perhaps prompt me to get out and about and visit places more as I get more confident again, perhaps, hopefully. I also remember a time when I visited my favouriteest church in the whole wide world, which is at Kilpeck, just outside Hereford. It's a 12th century church, which means it's basically Norman, Romanesque in style. Beautiful, beautiful sculptures, carvings on corbels and inside as well. And but there's a graveyard behind it, or in front, around it as well. A churchyard has some graves in it. But in the other part, there's some lovely wildflowers that grow there. And I know I've spent a couple of hours just sat drawing and trying to watercolour paint these flowers. But it's pen drawing or pencil drawing that has always been my superpower. It's the addition of colour to things that are perhaps supposed to look like something. It always seems to vex me in some way or other. There's plenty for me to do in an artistic way to get me out and about, but it's that social anxiety business. If I'm having trouble going to a shop that's familiar, I'm going to be terrible travelling around and about. I'm getting freaked out and frustrated with myself. But I've done so in the past, and I will do again in the future. Both getting freaked out, but also going out and spending time drawing, sketching, arting, looking, photographing, just appreciating all that I see like that. What comes to mind is a lovely afternoon I spent at what's the name of the place? Tewkesbury Abbey, where I ended up with my first kind of collage drawing, where I was just drawing things that caught my attention on a big sheet of A3 sketchbook, so it's twice this size. And I came away with, I did do a far away drawing of the Abbey, but it was in a little gap that was left where I'd slotted other things together. So it really was a memory drawing of my trip there. And that was something then that has something I've done at times when I visit places, when I've got the opportunity to sit and draw, to look and draw and observe, because I'm not good company when I'm doing this, because I do lose myself in art. And I can spend hours just enjoying that, and if somebody's eager to get on, you know, I'll forget about drink and food and things like that, and if I'm with somebody who's eager for that, then everything I'm doing gets stopped before I finished, as it were. And although I may have taken photographs or will take photographs, oh, excuse me, I never go back to the work because the work was done there and then. There and then. It's the same, you know, I've done the same thing in lots of places. Glastonbury Abbey it's got some lovely Romanesque architecture there. It's very ruined. Tintern Abbey the same. Very ruined, but some beautiful arches and mouldings and so on there. It's a bit later. It's not much in the way of Romanesque there, if any, I remember. But it's early English Gothic, early Gothic. It's lovely and very peaceful, if quite touristy. It tends to be touristy in the pubs outside. There's a pub and a cafe outside that do food and things. They tend to be very busy, but the abbey itself not so much. Because unless you're a member of Cadw, you do have to pay an entrance fee, which of course I'm always happy to do so. Because for English Heritage, I think if you've been a member of English Heritage for a year, I think you get entrance to Cadw, either free or at a reduced price. But I'm not a member of either now because I just wasn't using my memberships enough to warrant having them. Having said that, I've been a member of the National Trust for 3 years and I've barely used my membership. So, oddly, there's not many National Trust properties in Wales. There are plenty of National Trust car parks in West Wales, though, which you can park at for free. As long as you have your sticker in the window and your membership number with you, as it were. Again, you know, I won't be visiting the beaches of West Wales this year because the forecasts are that anywhere that's holiday-ish is going to be absolutely super busy. And so, as I don't do well around peoply places, I'll be waiting for autumn, if everything stays fine and well in terms of COVID, of course. And besides that, autumn is my favourite time of year. So the days are warm enough to enjoy being out, but fresh and cool in the evening, and with the beautiful colours and the golden light you get. You know, we're only a couple, 3 weeks away from summer solstice, where the sun's at its, highest, longest days, and the light is so bright as a result. We do get golden hours, the golden hours in the morning and in the evening, but colours tend to be very much washed out, I find, the rest of the day. But in autumn, spring and autumn, early spring and autumn, especially later in the day or earlier in the morning, you've got that beautiful golden light. But I associate it more with the evening, I think. And it's so lovely to be out and about in that. I've missed so much of this. Last year we missed so much. I was writing to my editor at Creative Haven yesterday as I sent off the proofs, and just said, how lovely it's been to see all the spring flowers this year, and with it is the sadness that I missed all of that last year, because we just weren't allowed to go anywhere. If you went for an exercise, it had to be from your front door and back again, unless there was a very good reason that you had to take your car. Well, I was so nervous of breaking a rule. I didn't know that sort of like social anxiety and mental, that kind of mental illness would be accepted as a valid reason for travelling. And of course the cemeteries were all closed for ages to stop people going there, and they weren't sure what restrictions needed to be in place. And once they were reopened, it took me a while to pluck up the courage to go there. And of course there's no problem, never is, only in my head. And that worry, am I breaking rules? And the answer is no. Sometimes I do worry what other people must think or do, and that's that social anxiety. And really, I need to, I know logically that it shouldn't bother me what other people are thinking, and they're most probably not thinking anything I'm thinking anyway. They most probably don't even notice me, other than, oh my god, there's a person coming towards me, quick, let's change our route. Because that is both nice in a way, but it's also, do they think I'm a plague queen or something? Again, it's focusing on, what do people think of me? It's got to be something negative. And yet I know that I do the same, but not, because I'm very vigilant as I walk around, and I'm noticing where people are, especially if the cemetery is very busy, as it can be on bank holiday weekends, and weekends, because people take the time to visit their loved ones' graves, but also like Easter and Christmas and any other religious holidays that would entail people visiting graves. Or anniversary. Well, anniversaries are different because they tend to be spread out through the year. But yeah. But I've said before, I've got over it before, and I will again. And I know that it is just little steps. And it might take me a bit longer than other people to recover that. But I will do, but I won't be pushed into doing it or anything before I'm ready to, because of the knock-on effect it has on me afterwards. As much as I may enjoy it, that heightened level of stress plays havoc with me. It really, really does. My sleep, my mood, I'm exhausted for days, I start to get brain fog again, eating goes all over the place, and it's not good. Not good at all. Okay, let's have a look. Now I'm going to put some shapes and patterns in the centre of some of these because I can, and because it's quite nice to split things up, I think. It adds a bit more interest, otherwise it's all a bit samey. And the last little bit over here. So the rest of the day, I don't know whether it feels quite fresh out. I've got a lovely breeze blowing in. So I think once I've done this, while the video is doing what the video wants to do, I'll be showering and sorting myself out. And if the thunderstorms hold off, I think I will go out and move my body around today, as it were, have a walk and enjoy that. And hopefully keep myself awake this afternoon, so that I can get to bed at a reasonable hour tonight and try to readjust my sleep again. Because if I am tired, I will go to bed and I will sleep for many hours. I do most Wednesday nights, as long as I don't sleep too much in the day, as long as I don't nap too much. Because if I nap too much, well, that throws me out for the night then. So there we are. It's an intuitive piece of art for you today, because I haven't had much of a clue or thoughts about what I'm going to do on each section. I've just gone with whatever appears, and it's a typically entangled-y type thing, which is fine by me, and it's perfect for adding colours of all kinds, I think, here, because nothing is meant to look like anything. It's pure pattern. And although I'm splitting some larger areas up into smaller ones, because again, that adds interest, like that. Some I'm going to leave as they are. Others I'm just going to do things like that. Could be quite nice, possibly. This one I think we could do with some more circles there. And if this was going to be one of my really intricate drawings, then I would be filling these sections in with, I suppose, the Zentangle type patterns and what have you. But as it's for colouring, I'm trying not to make the areas too small, so that it's easy for people to get into, because there's no white space, or there won't be any white space unless you choose to leave white space on this drawing. There's a couple of bits and bobs I need to correct on it, but other than that, I'm fairly happy with that, and I'm going to pop my little initials there. And there we are, this week's colouring template, which will be available from tomorrow on the Angela Porter's Colouring Book Group Facebook, Colouring Book Fans Facebook group. Shall I say that again? Let's go for it. Angela Porter's Colouring Book Fans Facebook group. And I'll leave a link to them in the description below. I think I always do, because they're such a lovely group of people. They do amazing stuff and bring my drawings to life in colour, because I just don't have the time to, because I spend my time drawing. And sometimes colouring, but it takes me forever to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. If you have enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, like that, boop, and consider subscribing to the channel. I don't know when the next video will be out, because my focus is going to be on the book, but it's probably every Wednesday at least, possibly at the weekend, one day at the weekend for a while, as I focus on that, because I find I'm better off if I start in the morning. I get a lot more done than if I do something like this and then I feel, oh, the day's nearly gone, especially when I'm up late. And so thank you for this time, and enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your week, the days ahead, until we see each other again. Bye bye.